Hey there, everyone. It's Shelly Levi, and welcome today to a little foam rolling workout. So sometimes what can happen is we can get a lot of trigger points in our body that get flared up and then can lead to pain that's being radiated out down maybe the leg, the back, and the arms. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some techniques today that you can do to help get into some of those trigger points and release some of that inflammation that might be lurking in there so we can push that out of the system, and then we can actually get some more range of motion and movement in the areas that we might be experiencing some discomfort or pain. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. You just need a foam roller and a mat. And I use the mat because there's going to be some different moves that you might have to have your elbow or something on the floor, so the mat kind of helps cushion some of that. So let's go ahead and start off here. And we're going to start off kind of working into the lats. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that foam roller and you're going to position it like right underneath that armpit, right underneath the armpit. And then just kind of let the body sink down into it, like it just kind of sinks right in. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of roll about an inch or two right into that armpit area. And then when you kind of find a spot, you can even go forward and back a little bit. And when you find a spot, see if you can kind of hold it and allow the body to kind of sink down a little bit more. And sometimes it can be a little painful, especially if you've got a trigger point that's really flared up. But yeah, just roll forward and back right in that armpit and about an inch down and up. Then you can start to work your way down a little bit more. So now we're going to roll a little bit more into the rib cage. So I'll move down here so you can see me. So you're going to come down just a little bit more and roll into that rib cage and kind of rotate the body back just a little bit as you're doing that. And again, if you find a spot, don't be afraid to kind of hang out right there, roll around into that little area that might be giving you a little trouble. All right, then you're gonna come over and do that other side. So again, right underneath the armpit is where you're gonna start. And then you're just gonna kind of roll about an inch or two to begin with. And you kind of rotate it back a little again. And if you find a spot, you can go forward and back. So it kind of gets a little bit into the rotators. And I can actually feel this side a little bit more than the other side. So especially when I rotate back. Yeah, like I said, if you find an area, hold it, sink down into it, and see if we can't roll just a tiny little bit and get some release going in that little trigger point. Once you get into that armpits, then start to come down a couple inches, a little bit more into that rib cage. And again, rotate back a little bit. And if you found a spot, do a little forward movement and forward and back. And then even kind of hold and sink. All right. Now, we're going to go into the back area. So when you go into the back, you're going to want to hold your core in tight to help kind of protect some of that. And then you're just going to walk yourself. And I like to put my hands on my chest. If you've got longer hair, watch out because sometimes it can roll underneath that foam roller. So I like to put my hands here. And then I just kind of lift my hips as I roll down the back to about the top of the pelvis. And it just goes slow. Now, you can also rotate. So I'm going to rotate a little bit to my side a little bit and see if I can't get a little bit more into that right side of my back. Going down and up. And then again, you can rotate to the other side a little bit. Just like maybe a 30-degree turn. as you're going down the back and up. All right. Once you get that done, then we can go and sit on top of the foam roller. I'm going to turn to the side a little bit. So when you sit on top of the foam roller, we're going to go now and we're going to get into the glutes a little bit more. So what I like to do as I start with is I'll just lean back a little bit and I'll just go kind of right where the leg and the bottom meet, kind of go roll into that and then to the top of the pelvis. Just shift back down and forth to start with. And you may not feel a whole lot in this area. Typically, this isn't the one that flares the most, but some people it still might. Then you're going to take that right foot, place it up on top of the, just above the knee on that left leg, so it's kind of making a figure 4. And then dip the knee down. And you're going to shift the body a little bit off to that right side. And now you're going to start to shift across that glute. And this is where you might feel a little bit more happening. So sometimes people that are dealing with like a piriformis syndrome, which can cause some sciatic nerve, a lot of times it's because of this area that we're rolling right here is extremely tight and it's pressing on that nerve ending or the nerve that's passing through there. So if we can get the inflammation out of that area, a lot of people can experience some relief from some of their sciatic pain if it's coming from the piriformis. Then you're going to shift, place the other foot up, and again, shift over, drop that knee down a little bit, roll to the side a little bit, and now you're going to get into the glute on that other side. And it's just a small little movement as you're going through. And again, if you find a spot, try to hold, maybe rotate forward and back a little bit into it, and then resume the rolling. Just kind of play around with it as you're kind of working through it. All right, now we're going to go into that IT band. I'm going to start on this right side here. So on the IT band, this one gets a little more tricky, and this is where I said you may need that mat to cushion the elbow. So I'm going to do this here. So what you're going to do is you come up onto that top leg, right around the pelvis, onto the side. I got my bottom leg straight. I like to take my top leg over the top with this and then start rolling. And I usually just stay right up here at the hip first. And then you kind of roll down and forward, back just a little bit to the top of that leg. And again, if you find some spots here, roll forward and back a little bit. And sometimes you might, as you come forward a little bit, you might feel a little something going into the hip flexors. So we'll be getting into those in a little bit. But rolling forward and back. And then once we do a little bit into that area, you're going to start to come down the leg just until you get to the knee. Keeping that side of the leg on there. And about midway down the leg is where you're going to hit that trigger point for the IT band. And if it's flared up, it's going to be pretty painful. So for me, it's about right here. And then I just kind of hold it, do a little roll, down and up. And maybe even see if you can hold it, let the leg sink into it a little. And then start to roll again. And then you switch over into the other side. So again, same thing. Take that hip up on top of the foam roller. A little bit more because we do roll with this. Take that bottom leg straight, top leg, bring it over the top a little bit, and then start with that hip area up on that pelvis first. Just going down and up, kind of to the top of the leg. Do a little bit of that. And again, right in about the middle, you can do a little forward and back shifting as well. Once you spend a little time in this area, you can start to move down that leg a little bit more. Here's where I'm going off. I'm going to scoot down a little more here. This This one uses a lot more room. All right, see if we can go here. There we go. So go up about to that knee. You don't want to cross over that knee joint, but right up to it. And again, about halfway down the leg, so right about here is where I start to feel that IT band, this little knot. And then you just kind of do a little roll, hold, sink into it a little bit more, and then continue the rolling up and down that leg, just like that. All right, now we're moving on to the quads. So the quads are right on top of the thighs here. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna go right up to the knees. Right to the knees and back. So this one's fairly, just shifting forward and back, top of the legs. But typically where this starts to become a little bit more challenging with people is when we angle the body a little bit. So angle it over towards that left leg. So you're gonna kind of lean over, put more weight into that left leg, and you're going more towards the outer part of the thigh. And you might notice a little bit more, I guess you could say, tenderness on that outer part of the thigh. And if you're a runner, you definitely probably are going to be feeling it more onto that outer part of the thigh and the IT band with these moves. Then you can shift and do the other side. Just lean a little bit more into the other leg as you roll down and up to get to the outer part of that thigh. And if you have some hot spots, spend a little time rolling into those areas and holding and sinking into it. All right. Now shift back over and we're gonna go a little bit more into the hip flexor. So this one, I try to come up onto the hip bone and I bend this leg and I put a little bit more pressure right into that area, right into that hip bone. And that's gonna get a little bit more into some of the hip flexor. And you might need to roll a little bit more to the side a little bit, rolling front and maybe a little bit to the back. And then you're gonna switch legs. And again, you're just kind of shifting the body weight a little bit. Rolling more towards that hip bone and then roll back a little bit. See if you can find any spots. And you might have one leg that might be really flared up and the other one not so much. If you notice that's happening quite a bit, one leg is, one leg isn't, there could be an alignment thing going on with the hips. So that's just something to be aware of. If you're always having one leg hurt, one leg isn't, there could be either a pelvis alignment or maybe one leg's a little longer than the other. So just kind of pay attention to some of that as you're kind of going through this. All right, so next up, we are moving on to the hamstrings. So the hamstrings get to be a little bit trickier. You're sitting on the foam roller again, and now this time you're rolling. You're kind of having to use your upper body to support you, but you're rolling the back of the legs right from like just, you're coming up just to the back side of the knees, don't roll over it, and then up to where the legs kind of meet the back side. Now, some of you might not notice this as much when you're doing it with both legs here. So what I usually will have people do is I'll put one leg over the top of the other. So now the weight's all into just one leg and then start rolling. And you might notice it a little bit more. And just like we did with the thigh, shift a little bit to one side and then roll a little bit more to the inside. So that way you're getting the entire hamstring. And then switch legs. Putting most of the weight now into that other one. And you'll feel it more. And then lean to the side a little bit. Roll it to the inside a little. And there you go. All right, now on to the calf. When we come down into the calf again, it's gonna require a lot more upper body strength. So if you need to shake out those arms and wrists, please do. And then I start in the belly. Turn to the side a little bit so you can see. Kind of start in the belly of the calves. I lift myself up and I start now rolling right through the calves like this. And it's going to be kind of that same concept like we did with the hamstrings. So place one leg on top. So all the pressure now is just into that one calf as you roll, and you're going to feel it a little bit more. And right when you're at about that mid part of the belly of that calf, roll it side to side. And you're going to feel this a lot more. Come down a little bit and keep going side to side. Do a few more rolls and then switch legs. Again, right up about to the knee and down towards the ankle. Do a few rolls. You can even lean a little bit to one side, lean a little bit to the other, and then come back to that belly of the calf, and then just kind of shift side to side like that. Good. A few more rolls. And there you go. All right, finally, our last one. We're going to get into the triceps a little bit here. So with the triceps, this is what I kind of do here, is you take and you kind of start, you can see this, underneath. I usually start kind of like right up by the elbow, but turn the palm up. Turn the palm up. And then you're going to roll down to the armpit and back. Roll down to the armpit and back, up to that elbow. Keeping the palm up. And again, you can turn the arm a little bit to the side. You can roll it a little bit more to the back. And then you're going to switch. So you make it a different view here. So you're coming up, keeping the palm up, and rolling down. All right, and again, you can do a roll forward and back. If you find a spot that seems to be a little irritated, roll forward and back, and then roll it out a little bit more. And there you go. You are good. All right, so that there is some foam rolling moves to help get into the arms, the back, the hips, the thighs, outer part of the legs, and the back side of the legs, even down into the calves. So I hope that you give this a try, especially if you're feeling pain into some of the areas of the body that we just touched on. I always tell people, start with that first. Foam roll out those areas first. And if you don't see improvement, then you might need to go and get some further advice onto what potentially might be going on. But usually, this guy right here is able to relieve a lot of some of that stuff that might be going on, that might be leading some of the pain or discomfort you might be feeling. All right, thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you again on a future workout. Have a great day. Bye-bye.